because whether you like them, woo, or you don't, they are the best thing, woo, in the football world today. Woo! Welcome, Gator fans and gamblers alike. Thank you for turning in to Work 'em Silly. I hope you all had an amazing offseason, but much like Jada Pinkett Smith, we find ourselves balls deep in August. My name is Champ Brantley Jr., and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, fellow pundits of bullshit, Mac Murphy and Doug Dickey. How we doing, boys?
Doing great. It's great to be a Florida Gator.
Hell yeah.
Just trying to make it to September 3rd at this point.
Yeah, it's right. We're right on the precipice. I can almost taste it right now. What is it? Like 10 days? Something like that?
The Gators Twitter released that video yesterday of them sitting in the swamp before the scrimmage. And Napier was like, I walk in here and it's hot. And in my mind, I'm like, yes, sir. Turn it up a little bit more. And I'm like, damn, man, that's me 100%.
That's what I was thinking.
Every time I walk into that stadium.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. If I'm not sweating balls walking in, it ain't right.
Right.
You know? That's the only thing I want.
It's truly one of the only times where you really get to embrace the suck. You know what I mean?
Embrace the suck.
The worse it is, the better it is for us. It's just right. I can't wait to get back on campus, do a little tailgating, see my boys, and just be a bona fide psycho for 4 hours with y'all in the stands. It's one of my favorite things every year, and I can't wait.
Yeah, this is going to be the longest. This last 10, 11 days, however far out we are going to be longer than probably since spring ball ended until fall camp started.
For sure.
That's the 10, 13, whatever, how many days, not great with numbers, is going to feel longer than the last 3 months did.
Followed by the shortest 4 months of the year.
Yep.
It always seems to come and go way too soon. And by the quickest third of the year, But anyway, today's episode, we're going to be doing a little bit of a preview for the season for the Gators. We're going to break down the offense and defense, give you some players to watch out for, and we're going to give you a little bit of our prediction. Spoiler alert, it's 10-2. We're going 10-2. That's the floor. After that, we'll be moving on to our gambler segment, Booty Picks, where all the picks are ass. We go through some of the week 0 matchups and tell you how to spend your money, and you'll probably be losing it, but that's kind of the show you tuned in for. I hate to say it.
Gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
Yeah, you gotta risk it for the biscuit.
And most of the time, you probably won't get the biscuit.
No, you definitely will never get the biscuit if you listen to our picks. But good thing is you can probably fade us and make some nice money. All right, let's kick things off though with a preview of our defense, the Florida Gator defense. Mac, we'll start with you. What are some things we can expect this year that's different from the absolute debacle that we saw last year defensively?
So this year, I think what you're going to see is, and in a good way, you're going to see more simplicity on the defensive side of the ball. I think you're going to see a player-friendly defense that's not so complex. You look back at Grantham's, and we've heard the horror stories from the players of kind of saying it was confusing. It was very high, took a lot of thinking, and that's when the more you think, the more it slows you down. The more thinking, you just have to let athletes be athletes and let ball players be ball players. There's a thing. That's why you hear all the time when they talk about certain players and positions. Oh, they just have the instinct. That's one of those unmeasurable traits that players have. And in Grantham's defense, I feel like he put too much thought into it, or too much into the players to make them not be able to use their instincts. And I think we're going to see a total reversal of that in this defense. I think it's going to be a freer, kind of smoother looking. I don't think you're going to see rushing, people rushing the lineup or not know where they have to be because this receiver is a yard wider than what they were the play before. So now the whole fucking thing is off
fucked up.
tilt. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see that. I think we're going to have that sorted out this year.
Doug, what do you think?
That's my brief overview of the defense.
I was just going to say on the note of not having to think so much, it sounds like based on some of the things you read from the Gators media guys that like in practice they are focusing on the thinking, this doesn't look right, you didn't form up or didn't get the right angle to get that tackle to wrap up, because missed tackles were a big thing I know that the new staff wanted to approach. So I think that when you do that thinking in practice and then you have that simple scheme in the game, it translates to doing those things quickly that, mean lockdown defense, mean good defense, and keep the offense on the field longer, or give them more opportunities to get on the field and keep your guys on the field for less time. That's sort of where it seems like they're going.
For sure. I mean, last year you had guys. Well, had the other team in the end zone, and then the safety and the cornerback are looking at each other with their hands up, not knowing what to do. Partially, that was Donovan Steiner's MO, but
that was the last 2 years that was happening.
Yeah, but last year in particular, the team couldn't even get lined up right. They were having trouble just getting to the line and getting down in time for the snap, and that caused. I mean, I believe it was the Kentucky game might have cost us the game there, and yeah. So hopefully the simplicity adds to the success factor this year, and also. What was I going to say? Oh, there's so much staff this year that everybody should be getting individualized attention, and the kind of okay, coach, I get it when you don't really get it. I'm sure that's not happening as much as it used to, but
it's all about having the complexity in the right spot.
Correct.
It's like a Chick-fil-A drive-through. It seems complex because you got to hire all these people, you got to go through, and you got to get all these people to work at a high level and say, my pleasure, and not screw that part up and all those different things. But the Chick-fil-A drive-through runs so smoothly because they hire everybody that they need to have. Correct. And make sure that they're well trained and in the right spot.
Exactly. Yeah, we need to.
Florida Gators, Chick-fil-A, we're one and the same.
For sure. All right, let's kind of go by close, or we'll go by proximity to the ball in the line of scrimmage. Let's go first with the D line. We're going to be talking about depth, some of the new players, some of the old players, and some of the new coaches. What do you got for us, Mac?
Yeah, so the defensive line is a big unknown, I think, this year. The interior defensive line, I should say. I think as far as strong side defensive end, we have plenty of depth there with Princely. I'm not even going to attempt to say his last name. You all know who I'm talking about. Tyreek Sapp is apparently having a great camp, had a great fall, a great spring. And then I think Justice Boone is another name you'll see. Those are three big players, and I think we'll see some packages where those guys line up inside. And unfortunately, I think depth is going to push some of those guys inside because we have a lot of unproven players on the interior defensive line. Obviously, we all know Gravon Dexter. He's a stud, great player, fast for his size. I mean, he moves so quick, and he's just strong. Like there's no other way around it. But if we had three of him, I think you wouldn't have any complaints like we're having right now about the defensive line. But we need to see some of the young guys come up. One name is Jalen Lee. I think he's I believe a true sophomore. He's got to really step up. He's going to have to play some valuable minutes. I'm actually glad Chris Thomas, he was kicked off the team or released and rejoined the team. So I'm glad he's back, because that was one position that, we couldn't afford to lose any more bodies. And those are two scholarship players. Chris Thomas is a scholarship player. So I'm glad he's back. I think he's going to have to play some valuable minutes. And then you have the freshman 4-star Chris McClellan, I believe that's his name, is Chris McClellan. Um, we're going to need him to play, and he is a true freshman, and usually you don't see the true freshman play much on the defensive line, other than like passing situations or some of those situations where they don't have to be as well refined in their technique, and they can just kind of use their power and their physical abilities and not much technique. But I think those are the four big names, and then obviously the biggest name,
Biggest of them all.
uh,
The Big
yeah,
Dez.
Big Dez. I think he's going to be, if he could give you 10 plays a game, I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, we don't want to
I
wear
think
it
I
out.
think I think you'll see him in on those like 4th and inches or goal line situations. I think that's the only time you'll see him
On
He fills a
defense.
gap.
on defense.
You don't think we're gonna have a Mount Cody situation?
Not with him. I think with our defensive line depth, and a guy that may only be able to give you 10 snaps a game, all 10 of those snaps need to be utilized to the best. And I think we have other guys that could do that type of off, fullback situation better than him. I think like Gervon Dexter would be much better in that
Yeah,
situation,
the
given
quickness.
how fast and strong he is. I don't,
I'm
I don't,
pretty sure.
yeah, those
I'm
guys would be much better for that.
I'm pretty sure we were on campus a couple weeks ago, and I want to say that it was Dexter that we saw like running with, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Just
Scary.
the amount of man that was there jogging up. I don't remember what road it was now, but I was like, "Good God, how is that even possible?" I can't imagine. I weigh like 147 pounds, soaking wet, and he could fold me in half if he
Backwards.
wanted to. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
You can turn you
So
into
yeah,
pork.
I think that my biggest concern with the defense is clearly the interior defensive line. I think we need 2 or 3 of those young underclassmen to step up and make a um, earn their pinstripes, as they would say.
Yeah, get the helmet stickers. Well,
Yep.
one of the most interesting guys on the D line to me is Coach Chaos. I mean, he's been getting guys on the trail for sure. I don't really know how involved he is with recruiting, but the kids seem to love him. He's a wild fuck, which I mean, I love a guy like that. And yeah, he seems to be coaching them up pretty well. He was at Penn State last year. Was it last year or the year before? Do we know? Crickets.
I think he was with. Wasn't he with Napier last year? I thought. I
I
don't.
don't know. I'll fact check it and I'll put it in here. But yeah, Coach Chaos, love what he's doing. And the kids seem to love playing for him. And you love to see a position coach with that kind of. Well, he's actually the co DC too, isn't he?
No, that's. Oh, is he?
This is Spencer?
Yeah.
He was with the Giants in 2020 and 2021.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the Giants. Um, yeah. Spencer, I'm excited to see what he's able to do with the group. He's been recruiting a lot of guys. I think he just got what, like four stars? Isn't that right, Mac? That he got 4 4 stars just recently.
Yeah, they've been recruiting the interior defensive line
Yeah,
pretty well. Some strong side defensive end guys. But it's not recruiting season,
yeah.
as Dan Mullen would say.
As Mullen would say, yeah. All right, let's move on to the linebackers. Doug, you got anything for us for as far as what to look out for with the linebackers?
So I think for the most exciting part is obviously that Ventrell Miller is back this year. He's kind of that quarterback of the defense. Went out against USF with a torn bicep and had to undergo surgery for that. We were sort of saying before we started the show here that one player probably wouldn't have made a huge difference on the defense last year.
He probably would have made the biggest difference though, out of anybody that was on the defense.
He's just like we said, that the QB of the defense, that leadership. Even a couple years ago after the Texas A&M game, we were complaining that the defense seemed like it had no killer instinct.
Yeah.
And even when the defense didn't have that, he seemed to have it. Like he was the one that was always going to rise to the occasion. Um, the little skinny kid that was in his spot last year, who we're going to cram the football down his throat against Utah in a couple of days. You always want kids to succeed. I don't want to trash anybody, but
Fuck that.
it's good to
We trash
have
people on this
a
show all the time.
legitimate linebacker back in the position
Yeah.
instead of a guy that has my build trying to stop SEC running backs. So as far as that goes, it's exciting to have him back. They keeping with the theme of the videos that the Twitter accounts, the social accounts are putting out there. He was mic'd up on one the other day, and it just really cool to see him back. Then there's, I believe, freshman Shamar James, Scooby. I think it's Scooby Williams from Birmingham, Alabama. And if you're a football player named Scooby and you're from Birmingham, I'm excited to see you. Yeah, excited to see you play. And then Dewan Black and Bernie will be back there in that position. It hopefully will look a lot better than it has the last couple seasons.
Mac, what do you think about guys like Bernie and Daiwan? I mean, Bernie was kind of undersized for backer too, but he was not fast enough to fit into the star. Daiwan was kind of what we wanted to get in a star, but I don't even know if we're going to be running nickel a ton this year or not.
Yeah, I think we will, but I don't think speed was ever Bernie's problem. I think your problem one with those guys with both D1 and Bernie has played, I think, 3 different positions in the 4 or 5 years that he was here. The last 2 years, I think he was primarily at linebacker, but he came in. They started him as a freshman. He didn't start, but I think they started him out as a safety. Then the next year, when we lost, I can't remember who it was. They tried him at star. That was the year they were trying pretty much everybody at star.
Right?
Yes, that's right. In 20, because we had Gardner in 18 and 19, it kind of looked a little rough. We got by, but after Gardner, we haven't really had a solid star, nickel, whatever you want to call it. And I think that was, he went to that position, and then he was at linebacker. So I think bouncing around didn't help him. And the same thing with D1. I think the first year he was on campus, which would have been last year, they had him in with the safeties primarily. And this fall, or this spring rather, they moved him back to primarily linebacker. And I just, it's not healthy for guys to be moving all around like that. And, because they're behind the 8 ball at that point when they have to learn. The good thing for D1 is he's in a new scheme this year. So it's a little better than the Bernie situation where, he was in the same scheme, not starting from scratch. Like, everyone started from square one this year. So I think that's a benefit to D1, but I mean, Bernie is one of the starters. He's a senior guy. I just think the bouncing around is bad. I mean, and you look at it when we had Grantham, we signed $10 or outside linebackers a year and would get them and then be like, oh, play inside linebacker. And we wonder why they couldn't stop the run because they've never,
case in point.
Yeah, they've never had to stop the run in high school. They were just pass rushers. They were told to go sack the quarterback or run off from the edge. And I think that's why you see Wingo. He never played inside linebacker in high school. He was an edge outside linebacker guy, and he's learning to play inside linebacker. I think he's still learning. So that's my linebacker take. I think Ventrell Miller being there is going to be huge for this defense.
What do you think Daiwan's going to play? Is he going to be a linebacker, or is he going to be in the backfield, do you think?
No, he's with the linebackers now. Okay. That's where he's at.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move a little further back into the defensive backfield. Coached by Patrick Toney and Corey Raymond, 2 of our best assistants in a group of great assistants. And yeah, I mean Corey Raymond, you know, kind of has a good resume for one of the best cornerback coaches in the country at any level, best developer of talent. I think he has. I don't know. Grant Delpit is his latest, but he's coached the likes of. Well, I don't know if he was there for Tyrann Mathieu, was he? Or,
I don't know, but I mean, you could probably name
yeah, I mean,
15 or 20 defensive backs from LSU, and he
yeah,
coached
he
at
coached
least
and
half of them.
recruited a slew of them. And Tony is coming over from Louisiana with Napier. He seems to be his guy, and yeah, Tony coaches the safeties and Corey coaches the cornerbacks. Uh, what do you expect to see from a D back situation this year from DBU? Let's start with Mac.
So I think it's clearly going to be anchored down the cornerback position by Jason Marshall. He's been a little banged up in fall camp, but I
Yeah,
think
he had a
he's one of
non-contact jersey for a while.
yeah, and I think he's one of the guys that if they sneeze out there on the practice field, you put him in a non-contact
Yeah, yeah.
jersey. Just he's one of the guys you can't really afford to risk it with, and I would and he's also one of the guys I think that can get by, one, with his physical ability, and two, he's played a whole season of SEC football. I think he's one of the players that can get away with not, he doesn't need every rep in fall camp like some of the other guys do. I think the other corner position is where we need to look, and I think it's going to be a battle all year. You've got Avery Helm. I think he played well at times last year. He's a very fast guy. I think you'll see him there, and then I've heard rave reviews about the freshman Devin Moore. I think he's going to play a lot there, and then we have the Georgia transfer Jalen Kimber. He is what is he? Is he a redshirt sophomore? Or is he,
Sophomore.
and he is eligible, and I think those three guys are gonna. I think you'll see a rotation with those three guys, kind of going with the hot hand, or if honestly, if all three of them are equal or close, you keep them fresh and you rotate them in, and that way, they're not tired in the fourth quarter. You can they're kind of all got some gas left in the tank come fourth quarter. um, Especially if you're playing like a pass happy team. I don't necessarily think that'll be the case against Utah, because I don't think Utah's going to try and throw it around the yard on us. But you play Kentucky with Will Levis, who might be a little more pass happy, especially if their running back's going to be out against
Is it
us.
Levis or Levi's?
It's
Levis.
And then the nickel position, I think we're gonna have to see how that goes, or whatever they call it in this defense. It's been a sore eye for this defense since we said since Gardner Johnson left. I think it's going to be. I think you're going to have what was his name? Jadarius Perkins playing there some.
What about Collier? Have you heard anything about him?
I think Collier, if you look at the roster, he is 175 pounds or 178 pounds. He's still got some growing to do. And we have a lot of safeties on the roster, so I'm not necessarily concerned with him not playing. Oh, I'm Trevez Johnson. I think he'll play some.
And Torrance.
Are they using him at safety? I can't remember, but safety, I think, especially I've heard good things about Kamari Wilson. I think Kamari Wilson as a freshman will play.
Torrance
And I think
flashing last year that he had some serious potential. I don't know how he's going to transfer into this scheme, but if he can, I mean, he showed me last year that he has the potential to be a real problem for some offenses, but we'll see how he.
Yeah, and I think what we're going to see this year is that I think we will find out very quick that it wasn't necessarily on the defensive side of things. It wasn't a player issue or a talent issue. It was more so a scheme issue, and not letting and just being way too complex instead of letting your guys just go play football and just go be better athletes. Are there better players then Rashad Torrance out there on the offensive side of the ball, is he going to get beat this season? I'm sure every safety gets beat at some point in time. I mean, and especially in a league like the SEC where there is home run threats on every team and everyone has a stud receiver or two. And with the running games that are in the SEC, you're going to have a play action that you're going to get your ass beat on. You're going to bite and you're going to look and the receiver's 3 yards past you and your hips are going the wrong way and now he's 10 yards past you and walking into the end zone. That's going to happen. And everyone needs to be prepared for that, I think. And it is a new scheme. I'm not saying that just because the scheme is going to be kind of simpler doesn't mean they're not going to be breakdowns this year. I think you're going to see a couple times where we might say, oh, this defense sucks. And that's not going to be the case. I think when you look at the big picture, I think you'll see a vastly improved product from the defensive line all the way to the defensive backfield. I don't think we're going to be playing 7 yards off the ball on a 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4.
Dude, let them. About the press.
Yeah. So I think we'll be a little more situationally aware, or at least I hope. That's my hope. So that's pretty much all I got.
All right. Well, let's move on to the offense. The 2021 offense was one of the most inconsistent that we've seen at Florida in I don't know how long. Couldn't pick a running back, couldn't pick a quarterback to take the reins all season. We subbed in AR and Emery. Malik had the short yardage plays over Pierce, which, as we know now, as Pierce is flashing in the NFL, that we all
Dude, he deserves so much
was
better.
Correct that he was a stud and he didn't get enough carries, especially in different situations. That seemed to be what Mullen's issue was, that he was outfoxing himself on the personnel side a lot on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line last year was underachieving, and the play calling was substantially worse than in 2020. I don't know. I guess it was who was the guy that went to the Eagles?
Brian Johnson.
Brian Johnson wasn't calling the plays anymore in 2020 to 2021, and it definitely showed. It seemed like last year it was so hot and cold where the offense would be firing on all cylinders, and then the defense would stink, and then the defense would be playing well, and the offensive couldn't get a yard. It was insane. So putting yourself in the shoes of the new coaching staff, where would you start in fixing these issues? Either one of y'all can start if you like.
First of all, going back to Dameon Pierce, he deserved better.
Yeah, fucking
and
travesty.
That can't be said enough. I'll probably gonna get that put on my headstone when I die.
Yeah.
As far as fixing things, I know that they have pulled up and it wasn't all on the offense, but they pulled up a video, created a tape showing all of the undisciplined penalties that the team had last year. And I think that is where you have to start on a lot of things. I mean, you go to the Kentucky game, it's like, I forget how many false starts they had.
More than 15.
15. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of yards that you're putting yourself behind every 5 plays or so. And it's like in a stadium where it isn't that loud, it isn't that crazy, and that's not, the Commonwealth Stadium gets loud, and they were rocking that night, and they obviously, Kentucky wants to beat Florida at home bad because it's been since the 60s or whatever.
Yeah,
but
they can't,
it's still ridiculous that stuff is happening and there's no adjustments made. That being said, I think that the discipline side of things changes a lot and then just like the competency of having the correct personnel and changes a lot for the offense this year, because I said it a couple days ago, we were talking, and it's like this team last year could have gone 9-3 or 8-4 at the worst with the talent that they had
especially with the
a
way they
couple
started
breaks
the
here and
year. I
there.
mean, we all saw the Alabama game.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, the swamp was prime swamp. I don't know that I've seen it better than that. I haven't seen it better than that 5 times, maybe if we're lucky. I would say like some of the old
And
glory
to come
days.
back the way they did too.
Say again.
To come back the way they did too,
Yeah.
it was a huge deal because like I could, at halftime I was like, we might as well just leave. This is stupid.
Right.
Like and then they come out in the third quarter and everybody kind of got back into it. So you have all those things and it's just none of it made any sense. I think that the discipline side of things, and I know that, and Matt can probably touch on a little bit more than I can, but the simplicity of the offense might help a little bit too.
Well, I don't know if it's that, because I'll say this. I mean, when you could tell the games when Dan Mullen wanted to coach,
When he was in his bag, he
he
was certainly in his bag.
I mean, the Alabama game's a prime example, and then the Kentucky game the week after? I mean, they just completely like went polar opposites, like and that's going to be the difference. I think Dan Mullen at his best play calling offensively is better than probably top 5 in college football. You could argue that when he is dialing them up and focused and calling plays and has his dudes. I mean, you could make the argument top 5 offensive mind
For sure.
in the game. I think that's easy, top 5. But there was just too many highs and lows. It just wasn't consistent enough. And I think that was part of that. That was him of just saying, oh, we can win this game easy. Prime example, Kentucky didn't try anything exotic, just ran a super vanilla game plan and had no sense of urgency.
Yeah.
So I think,
undisciplined too.
the highs were super high, but the lows were really low. I think you're going to see kind of a middle with Napier. I think it's not going to be sexy. It's he's gonna still wants his athletes to be athletes. We're not going to see a McElwain or a Muschamp style offense. That's not what I'm saying. But I think it's just going to be more consistent. I think he wants to run the football. He wants to have a strong offensive line, which everyone should. He wants to win the game from the line of scrimmage. That doesn't mean he's not. When you hear that, you think Wisconsin, Iowa. You think of that type of game. Or you think of 2009 Alabama with all of those. Yeah, that's not what it means to win at the offensive line. I mean, you look at Alabama now; they win at the offensive line and they have speed and they get out there. I think that's the style you're going to see. Is he still wants to have fast athletes? I mean, who doesn't? And I think he's going to use that to his advantage. I don't think we're going to run, 85% of our runs, in the A and B gap and just run them between the tackles the whole game. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think we're going to try to run the ball. I think we have the running backs to run the ball. I think we have a pretty good interior offensive line. I think we have a really good offensive line if they're all healthy. I mean, there's the transfer from Louisiana.
Torrance.
Was it Torrance?
Cyrus.
He's a I think like first team All SEC, and he came from the Sun Belt.
Right.
So what does that tell you about him? And Garage is a 3 or 4 year starter now at the left tackle. I think he's good. Ethan White, when he's healthy, has been great.
He came back today too.
Yeah, he had I don't know what happened to him, but I think he's fine. Everything I read, there's no worries there. And I think you have the only real concern, and then so the guards in between the tackles, taking front and right tackle, the starter is going to be Michael Tarquin, and from what I've read and everything is that he's going to be the coaches are high on him. The offensive line coaches are very high on him. And I think that's the only question mark I have, if he can actually live up to the potential. And if the coaches think that he's fit for the job and it's going to be great, then I don't really have any question, because that's the other thing, a benefit that we kind of haven't touched yet on the offensive line side. We have 2 offensive line coaches. I think that's going to be huge, huge, because they're getting coached up. They're getting a lot of attention, and we can talk about recruiting. That's not what we're here for right now.
It's
The
not
in
recruiting
season,
season.
it is not recruiting season, and
Game
I
time,
think
baby.
the offensive line is going to be much improved, and I think and that's also that another element to that is, even if they're okay, Anthony Richardson's skill set is good enough to um, he can get out of there. He can avoid it. He can extend the pocket.
Sure.
He can extend plays. I think it's, if we had Kyle Trask back there with, and granted that offensive line with Trask in 20 and 19 wasn't a great run blocking, but they pass blocked with the best.
They were good, yeah.
But I think this one, I think you might see a difference. I think they're going to be a better run blocking unit than pass blocking. But I also think in that sense, with Anthony Richardson's skill set, even if they're average at pass blocking, that'll be fine. It's not ideal, but it will be fine, because he can extend plays for you. And when you can't just blitz heavy to one side or like overload a side and get to him, because he can slip out of there. And if you bring 7 and 4 of your DBs are going deep, and he breaks through that first level, I mean, he'll be gone. That's so you're gonna have to have a spy on him anytime, even when you're bringing 5 or 6 guys. You're gonna have to have one guy spying on him, and even then, I like Anthony Richardson in any one-on-one matchup with anyone.
Right. Yeah, that's what you want. I mean, honestly, you want him to be in the open field versus a linebacker, or even. I mean, he's got 4.4 speed. I mean, he could run out there with any kind of cornerback or safety that you're going to see too. So,
our coaches in high school, they said the same. They would say something of not talking about me as one of the athletes
what?
that they liked. They would say, if we get in a one-on-one matchup, they would tell the guy, tell the quarterback, throw the ball. We like our guys over their guys. Like that's the mentality I have with Anthony Richardson. If he's ever in a one-on-one matchup, I like our guys. I like him over anyone else you put out there, and him running. Obviously, if we're not talking fucking Oklahoma drills or anything like that, I'm talking. I mean, obviously, Will Anderson, I would pick an Oklahoma drill over Anthony Richardson. But if Anthony Richardson is running in the open field and their best linebacker, their best safety is coming up, I like Anthony Richardson to somehow make a play and get out of there, or at least do something where the guy just barely trips up his ankle and gets him. That's the play I'm talking about. So I think offensive line, I think overall, I think we'll be fine.
All right. Let's talk about some of the guys that Richardson's going to be throwing to. We're returning Whittemore. We're returning what's his name?
Shorter.
We're returning Justin Shorter, and we're
Henderson.
as well as getting a couple guys from the transfer portal. We got Pearsall, who's wearing the number 1 jersey this year. He ought to be pretty good. Who else?
Ty Cheeky Ochio Bowman, or just we'll call him Ty Bowman.
Ty Bowman.
Jaquan
Ty
Frazier's.
Oh, and Frazier's, yep, the freshman,
and
or his sophomore now.
Pouncey's in the mix, right?
No, or well, I mean, I don't think so. That's the Texas transfer, right? That Pouncey, not his younger brother is a cornerback commit. Ethan Pouncey,
Jordan Pouncey.
Jordan Pouncey, I think is the I mean, I think with the addition of Pearsall, I don't think you're going to see much of Pouncey.
Okay. And we got Zip coming back too. He's a
tight end.
Yep.
Yeah, tight end room is a little. I don't think we're going to see much from the tight ends in the pass game this year. That's just my hunch. I think we'll see more of them utilized as blocking. I certainly think from a receiving standpoint, Bowman. Zip is probably your best option. But from everything I've read and heard is Dante Zanders is going to be kind of the guy there, and he's been great. He's the best blocker out of all of them, is what I've heard. So I think you'll you know I'm not saying that we're not going to use a tight end in the pass game, because we certainly are,
Yeah,
but
it's just not going to be.
I think Billy Napier has on with this talent. Obviously, if Billy Napier had Kyle Pitts on this roster, he would be utilizing that talent. I don't think we have. I think the priority that, from what I've heard, is there's more of an emphasis on the blocking side of things and the receiving side of things with the tight end position.
So
And
do you think that Napier would even recruit a guy like Kyle Pitts looking forward?
yeah, that's one of the, like, he's that type of player is a +1 guy. Like, I mean,
True.
I just think, you know that's you can't fit a square peg into a round hole, and I don't think we have any. We have it. We don't have anyone that fits in that mold. Yes, Zip is great, or has had good, glimpses of great, at times, but I don't think we have a guy that, like I said, it's a balancing act. Like, do I want the guy out there that might be a touch faster and has maybe a touch better hands, but is significantly less on the blocking side of things, or would I rather have a guy that's a great blocker that we rely, like, he's a reliable pass catcher. He's not going to make anyone miss, but when it's 3rd and 3 and we do a play action, he'll be able to make a nice block off the line and get 3 or 4 yards down and
Sure.
catch the ball. Like, I think Napier's putting more of a premium on the blocking ability, because I think that's what's going to be needed more in this scheme. And I think the combination of how good he can block, and he's shown that he's in the spring game, Xanders showed that um, he's a serviceable on the receiving side.
Sure.
He's not a liability
Yeah,
out there.
he
So,
can flick out on the boot and catch it, but he's not going to
and,
be. Uh,
and I'm not saying Zip is a liability on the blocking side of things. I just think that's just much more of an attestament
right.
a testament to Xanders, and being such a
Sure.
a much better blocker.
All right. Well, speaking of blocking, what can we expect from the running game? I mean, I think that we're going to see a lot more pat or run heavy offense from Napier, especially since he's got AR back there, who is always a running threat. But we're probably going to see a lot of pressure taken off of him by guys like Lingard. Of course, Naquan Wright. This should be a big year for Naquan, especially. I mean, he can receive out of the backfield too. Like, probably one of the better backs that we've had at Florida in terms of pass catching out of the backfield. What else? What else do you guys want to see from the running game this year?
I'm probably most excited after the spring game to watch Montreal Johnson.
Montreal Johnson. Yeah.
Um, he is. It's funny. I go get my haircut in the Rights Union barbershop, and the guy Vaughn that's in there. We're always talking about football, and I go in, and we always land on like a conversation about him and watching him in the spring game, and just like how hard he hits the hole, and short yarded situations looked really good, but he's really fast too. And I think that he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder because here he comes from a Sun Belt team, was never, recruited or sought after by bigger schools, and he's going to have something to prove um, against
The
SEC
SEC. Yeah.
teams and big, playing Utah and Florida State as well. These bigger schools that didn't go after him, he now has a chance to show off what they missed out on. So I'm really excited to see him hit the field.
Yeah, I think Naquan Wright and Montreal Johnson are, like, when the depth chart comes out, or if one does come out, that'll be one of the oars on the depth chart as RB1. I think they've, from all accounts, have Naquan Wright is fully recovered from his ACL. I think it was ACL injury. He's looking good.
Naquan was so fun to watch. I love it.
Yep, yep. He's he's it's like fun to watch. Like I just remember the Georgia game in 2020 of him catching some of those passes out of the backfield of just how he looked like, almost sometimes unorthodox of, when he was catching it, and his moves, like they're not as crisp, but they work.
Yeah, he's
And
smooth with it.
yeah, so I think the combination, obviously we were a very pro Bowman podcast, and we don't have him anymore. But there's a reason that he left. He was probably number 4 when Naquan Wright came back and recovered. He was number 4 in the depth chart. And again, like I was talking about Zipper and Xander's, the tight end blocking situation. I don't know if that's as much of an insult to Bowman as it is a testament to how good Montrell Johnson and Naquan Wright are. And then the same thing. Everyone's like, well, Lingard, a former 5-star.
Lingard, I've heard good things about. I've heard that he's been a star at camp.
He's probably your biggest home run threat, but I don't think he's I don't know what the difference is between them, but everything I have read is that it's 1 and 2 clear as day. It's Naquan Wright and Montrell Johnson, either, whatever day it could be one of them, and then it's Lingard and that third spot. I think as much as we're going to be running the ball, we're going to need a healthy dose of everyone. I think, I think we've run 80 plays a game. I think you're going to see 50 of them at least are going to be runs. And, Anthony Richardson can't carry the ball. We don't want Anthony Richardson running the ball 20 times a game because we don't want him to get hurt. So I think, you'll see a healthy dose split up between, like a pretty even split between Johnson and Naquan Wright, and then I think you'll have Lingard in there spelling those two guys.
You think
with
ETN's going to see the field at all this year?
I don't know. And mop up duty for sure. If we have any games of that nature, and I think you could see him in maybe some situations like if a guy cramps up, and I think you could see him. And I have heard good things about ETN. I just don't know. Those other 3 guys are older, have played against. Naquan Wright has. Lingard hasn't played as much, but all 3 of those guys have played some big time football, or against. They played against college football players. ETN hasn't, so I don't. I'm not going to hop up here and say he's going to get 40 carries on the season. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but sure, he's definitely going to get some touches.
All right. Very quickly, we'll go through just kind of looking over the roster. There's been a lot of changes this year. We have transfers, we have new guys, we have freshmen. The Napier Army has been scouring the country to find new and better players, as well as reevaluating some of the old guys. Let's go through the roster and talk about some of the guys that we expect to have a big year this season. Let's start with just some of the guys that are coming back, maybe that you think are going to have a big year, or or it's maybe their last chance to do big things.
Like who wants to start there?
I was just the low hanging fruit would be Anthony Richardson.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty obvious that he's going to be something special. I know there's a couple question marks maybe around like how well he's throwing the ball. He went off to be with that. I don't remember the guy's name that he was kind of training with, but there were some things coming back where some passes were sailing, maybe throwing behind a little bit, and they were a little bit of turnover prone in that first scrimmage that they had. But I think if he buttons everything up, obviously it's pretty easy that he's going to have a pretty successful and stellar
for
season.
sure. He's going to be our most important player easily. Mac,
I think Yeah, I think as far as like a make it or break it season, obviously your seniors or your older guys have, and we're talking offense. I mean, uh, it's Justin Shorter's opportunity, his last ride, as they would say. I think he has to, um, or I guess he's a redshirt junior, is what it's saying. I didn't know that. I thought he was a senior.
Yeah.
But I think he is he's got to show out. I think he has the ability to. I also think you know from a I think one guy we're gonna look back on the season and be really glad with the addition is Ricky Pearsall, the receiver. I think
Yep.
he's going to be a safety blanket for Anthony Richardson on a lot of these, third and shorts. He's scrambling and dumps it down to Ricky Pearsall. I think we're going to see. I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky Pearsall leads the team in catches.
What kind of
I think he's
receiver
going
is he? Is he a stretch the
to.
field guy, or is he?
He's a slot guy, but he's shifty, is what I've heard. I think
Okay.
I've heard he can make some people miss. I don't. He's not Xavier Henderson where he's going to run, blazing speed and. But the difference is,
We still have Henderson, right?
yeah, and I think the thing, and I touch on this, like you look at the receivers, and I know everyone talks about Wes Welker and all those white receivers. That's Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, and
Chris Doering,
um, yeah, and Danny Amendola, and all just all those guys. Um,
Cooper,
and it gets beat. It
Chris
gets beaten to
Collinsworth.
the ground. But those guys, much like Ricky Pearsall, they're not the fastest guys on the field, but they run such crisp routes and they can get separation. That's a thing that everyone
scrap.
sees this. They see this 40-yard dash speed and they get googly eyed over it and say, "Oh, a 4.3 guy." Well, a 4.3 guy is great whenever you run a play action against USF and their safety bites and you can run right by them over the middle on a deep post and you're wide open. But that shit is not going to happen when you're playing Alabama or you're playing Georgia or you're playing like it doesn't happen to win those big games. Like it when you're playing a big time team, you need the guys that can get separation and be open in those tough situations and that can get to the sticks, run a route at the sticks and catch it and fall across the line to gain. Like that's those guys in those situations are and we saw it last year. Henderson and even Shorter, they struggle getting separation. The receiver group as a whole struggle getting separation. Like Freddie Swain. Freddie Swain was fast, but he could get separation.
Yeah.
Same thing with Van Jefferson. Van Jefferson was an excellent route runner, and he wasn't the fastest. I think he was clocked at
He was open though. He
um,
was always
a,
open.
a, I think he was like a 4.6 or maybe like a 4.5 something 40, which is a second and a half faster than me, but is there's receivers that show up at the combine every year and run a 4.3, and
And
there was a
that
reason.
route
There's
running
a
is what
reason.
got him a ring too.
Yeah, and there's a reason that he got running a 4.6. Some of those guys get picked higher than those guys you see running blazing 40s because they look at the tape. It's not just combine that they look at. They look at the tape and they're like, oh, this guy can get separation from you look at the LSU game with Van Jefferson. He was going up against a first round draft pick. I think it was I can't remember who it was. Is it Stingley?
Yeah,
Um, or someone he was going up against, and he ate his lunch. Like I mean, down at the goal line, and the whole game, I think he had 2 touchdowns that game.
yeah.
You and he doesn't have 4.3 speed, so that's not the tell sign of being a good receiver. It's just being fast. You got to run routes, and Pearsall's a guy that like Freddie Swain, like Van Jefferson, is going to be able to run great routes and get open. And even Tony at the Tony figured it out. Finally started running routes in his last
Yep.
couple years. Like
Yep.
he put it together, and you saw what he could do. And he had a little bit more. He had the super elusive ability, but you don't necessarily need that. You don't need that. I mean, I would rather if I had to pick, like I said, the fast guy or the guy that can just run the route, catch the ball, That's all we need, and that's what Pearsall is.
Kadarius Toney running a whip route is about as unguardable combination as you're going to find, though. You can't hang with them.
No.
What do we think about like some of the guys that transferred in with the Napier staff? So we have guys like Torrance. We have who's the running back we just talked about? Johnson.
Montreal Johnson.
Who else came in with Napier? Do we know any off the top of the head?
There was another offensive lineman that came, but he's a redshirt freshman. I don't think he's going to play a whole lot. Who else came? I think from Louisiana it was just those two. To be honest with you.
So I like that we have the continuity from the previous, from Napier's previous staff. So especially in areas like the O-line and the running backs group go together well. But on the defensive side of the ball, excited to have guys like Ventrell back who understand what it is to be a Gator and, can help the defense kind of, from a leadership standpoint. And it's good that we have veteran Gators as well as veteran Napier guys.
Yeah,
well, you mentioned guys that kind of like it's their last shot. Trey Dean.
Oh my God, he's still on the team.
And Bernie came in the same year, I believe.
That's crazy.
And I've always liked Trey Dean, and I hope that he kind of shines and gets a chance to look really good this year. There was a couple times where maybe he got beat in the spring game, and I thought I read something. It might have just been some people tweeting at people, but about him getting beat again or looking lost. But I just hope that he's a guy that has been there a long time, and I think everybody wants to be good, but it seems like a guy that plays his heart out.
Yeah, he's certainly dedicated. I mean, he stayed here this long.
Yeah. So I just hope that he has a good season. It's definitely his final shot.
Do we know if he's a corner or a safety this year?
Safety. Him and him and Torrance, I believe, are the starting safeties right now. Mm-hmm. And I think Dean's another guy that might benefit from we touched when we were talking on defense, talking of the scheme. I think might help him out. I think Dean is what he is, but I think he has some athletic ability. If we remember, he got on the field as a true freshman and played pretty dang good as a corner. But he was another one. Then the next year got bumped around to move to nickel and then move to safety, and he's finally had some continuity. I mean, if you pick up on the theme, and I had complaints about that in year 2 on the defense of seeing this moving of parts around. Yeah, and it's like, man, these guys, like, you don't see that in the NFL. Like, I mean, you don't move a linebacker to safety or a safety to corner or safety to nickel.
Certainly not more than once. It'll be a one-time thing. If you make it, you make it. If you don't, then you're gone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that was, to a point, we want to get the best 11 players on the field. Well, I mean, the best 11 players, if they're all 11 defensive backs, you're not going to put them at defensive line. I mean, you've got to be realistic at a point. And who knows, some of those guys, I mean, that could have been the best options they had at the time. But I think we saw some of the young guys play pretty well at times. And I think it was kind of a testament to the last staff of how they couldn't, on the defensive side of the ball, they couldn't develop. Like, those guys just seemed to be just as good as the day they were. Like, I feel like I'm saying the same thing about the offensive side of the ball under Muschamp and McElwain. Like, we would have freshmen come in and look great in the little bit they would play, but they would just never get better. Right. And I think hopefully this staff will change that, and I think we see some growth. But I also, about the youngsters, I think we're going to see some impact freshmen this year. I think Kamari Wilson at safety is going to play some meaningful plays. I think Shamar James at linebacker is going to play. I think the defense is pretty wide open as far as young guys. There's not much of an opportunity for youth on the on the offensive side of the ball, but the defensive side I think is going to be wide open. And the defensive line, I think we're going to see a bunch of young guys, redshirt freshmen and true freshmen, get some big time playing.
Yeah,
time.
Napier calls those guys job takers, which is pretty cool. It's just kind of adding to the sense of competitiveness and urgency and the in the practices and everything they do. So that's
yeah, they're good. You're breeding excellence with that. I mean, if I think we saw under Mullen a lot of complacency, not only with the coaching staff but the players. They got a little complacent. They knew. I mean, the prime example I can think of is Marco Wilson. Like he wasn't worried one bit when he did. We don't talk of it, but when he did what he did, and you all know what I'm talking about. He had no. He was like, and when he got just absolutely bullied by Texas A&M, he just kind of shrugged his shoulders and I think that then what does that tell your youthful players, your young freshmen that come in highly recruited? They know they're legit because they were getting recruited by Alabama or Georgia wanted them too. And you see that guy over there, not caring and not like if you get burnt, I know it's part of the game and playing defensive back or in defense, you're going to get beat. You're going to get beat. But you need to be like devastated that and you need to figure out what you did wrong or what happened, what you can do differently to get better. And I think then whenever you see that happen and you got a guy sitting in the wings going like, I feel like that wouldn't have happened to me, but you never get the chance. So then you're sitting there like, why am I going to keep busting my ass week in, week out at practice whenever it doesn't fucking matter that, they're going to start the same old guy every week. And I don't think you're going to see that with like I think if Devin Moore, like that's another one we touched on the defense. I think when you see Devin Moore go out there, if he goes out week one, and I think Helm is going to get the start just because I don't think you want to put a freshman first time. Like it's one thing if FAU was coming to the Swamp, but it's Utah. But later in the game, whenever Devin Moore is going to get out there at corner, and if he's out there and shutting that guy down, he might just stay on the field. And next week on the depth chart, or it might say but taking that first snap, it's going to be Devin Moore. Same thing at safety. I think if Dean or Torrance struggle a little bit, let's throw Wilson out there, see what he's got. And if he puts on a show and plays safety how safety should be played, don't be surprised if you see him playing the roles reverse and Dean hopping in there to take the break or to give him the breather rather than him going in to give Dean some rest. And that's what I hope to see out of this staff, and that's from all accounts I've heard. That's kind of how they approach things, which that either makes players quit, like give up, and that's good. If they give up and they're like, I don't want that spot back, fine, quit, get off the team. We don't need that mentality. Or it's going to make them go bust their ass even harder because two things. If you quit like that, we don't want you wasting a scholarship spot that some other guy that we want to recruit or some other guy transfer in the transfer portal that we know is going to come in here and bust their ass for that spot. Yeah. So I think that's going to not only help with the overall product, it's going to help with your attrition, your roster attrition. I think it's going to make the guys that don't want to work for the job, they're going to, hey, nice knowing you. Good. Thanks. It was nice.
Scram you, bitch.
Good luck on your next adventure. But it's not.
But I think at the same time, though, that it seems like this staff is kind of trying to change the culture of the team and the program to be more of a, to not want to quit, to understand that it's like, listen, we're going with this guy because he gives the team the best chance to win, which is important. And then guys can say, listen, coach, I get it. I want the team to be the best that it can be. And then go, like you said, go back and work harder. Obviously, there's always going to be those one or two guys that just don't have it. But it seems like that's one of the things that maybe it's just Napier always saying the right things at the right time. But it just seems like that everything has been the right mentality since day one, that we're going to do this and we're going to do it the right way, and we're not going to cut any corners. And hopefully it'll pay dividends if in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I sure hope it will. All right, let's wrap this up. Let's go through our season this year, and go wins and losses. This is this has been a strange off season to say the least. I mean, we've had such huge mix-ups outside of even Gatorland. We have fucking Chris Doring picking Kentucky to win 11 games. Miami, who is starting completely over, has a win-loss over/under of 9, according to the sports book. Boys, why don't we go through our schedule and pick each game? Obviously, next week we're going to have a Utah preview, but let's just talk about it briefly, and then we'll move on to Kentucky. What are we thinking, boys? Wins or losses for Utah?
So, sorry, I'm
Let's start
adjusting
at
my
Utah
mic.
then, actually.
Yeah, so Utah win. Kentucky, obviously a win. I have us going undefeated in September, obviously beating Eastern Washington to start October. Mizzou win. That's at home. And if we're 6-0, I like us to beat LSU at home. I think that'll be a raucous crowd. I'll be absent from that game. I have prior obligations, but I will be absent that game, and I'm really sad of that if we are 6-0 going into that game. But I will tell you, I will be in Jacksonville when we are 7-0, and that's going to be crazy. I do have us losing Georgia and A&M. I think we'll see. You remember Mullen's first year, how the Georgia loss kind of caused us to lose to Missouri. I think Texas A&M is a much tougher team than Missouri in that year, and Kyle Field is a much more raucous environment than.
That's at Texas A&M this year.
Yeah, that's if that game was sandwiched somewhere else in the calendar or in the schedule, I would be a little more confident in it. But it being the week after Georgia, I think it's going to be a tough one. Then I have us reeling off 3 victories to close the year, going 10-2. I think we get a New Year's Six bowl. I don't know who it would be against, but I like us going 10-2.
All right, Doug, what do you got?
We'll start with Utah there. That's going to be a win. A Ute doesn't know what humidity is. Kentucky without Wandell Robinson and what looks like Chris Rodriguez sitting out will be a loss for the Cats, despite what the ludicrous Chris Doering is thinking. USF is an easy win. I actually think that we're going to drop one to Tennessee. I think they are chomping at the bit to finally win again, and it's just going to be one of those weird things where they pull off a win. I don't like going into Neyland Stadium when they're on the up.
Fact check his pick on the preview week. We can't let him pick Florida on the preview week of that. We've got to hold him to this.
I'll hold him accountable.
Okay. I will. Something may change. I might if we just absolutely dismantle Utah and Kentucky by like 70,000 points, then I won't. I'll admit my wrongdoing there. I kind of want Tennessee to be good again because I'm tired of it always just being a beatdown and like there's no fun in the East anymore. But I do think they lose that one.
It's fun to beat Tennessee by a bit.
It's his picks. It's his picks, yeah. Champ. Let's let him be wrong.
Carry on.
Eastern Washington, easy dub. Missouri, easy dub. LSU, my family is Brian Kelly is going to be so red by the end of that game and yelling. Who knows? He might even send some poor kid up into a scissor lift in a windstorm. But as the game comes up, that guy sucks. We're never losing to LSU as long as he's a coach there.
I agree with that.
Can't lose on the bye week. Georgia, unfortunately, they're just in a much better place right now. You have to respect it. I hate them, but they're going to win. Texas A&M, I believe we will lose to that team too, unless we can sneak in and give all of their players COVID like they gave to us in 2020, those little dirtbags. And then South Carolina, Vanderbilt, and a Friday night game in Florida State, which feels like a trap, but we'll win all three of those.
All right, so what is that?
So 9-3.
9-3.
With the potential to go 10-2 if Tennessee just looks like shit in the first 3 weeks, which is very possible.
But I say that because 10-2 happens to be the floor for us. I don't know if you've been reading our Twitter at all, but 10-2 is the floor. We're gonna open up.
I just feel like Tennessee is on the up. And they going into Neyland worries me. That's the only thing.
I'm not worried.
It ain't your daddy's Neyland.
Sure isn't. And even in your daddy's Neyland, we were kicking their ass in the 90s. Anyway, all right, let's start with Utah. Utah has no fucking shot. They're gonna come into the swamp. They're gonna be dehydrated and shitty, and we're just gonna push their shit in. Kentucky, we're gonna beat their ass. Kentucky, this is where we return to the tradition of every September kicking Kentucky's ass, and they maybe make a little show of it, maybe make us scared for a second, but when the dust settles, Kentucky defeated. Then we got USF, obviously going to trounce them. Then we go up to Tennessee. Unlike my foolish co-host, we're going to fuck them up. They can't beat us at all. I don't know what it is about us and them, but they fuck up like no one else against us. They start fumbling the fucking ball. They sub in 15 different quarterbacks. They stink. We're going to beat them too. Hendon Hooker stinks. Eastern Washington, we're going to blow them out. Mizzou, I hate Mizzou. In fact, this is the only spot that I'm kind of worried about this season because Mizzou always shows up to play us. It doesn't matter if it's at our place or at theirs. I hate Mizzou. They're just kind of like a thorn in the side. Then we got LSU. They're coming to Florida. We're going to beat the shit out of them. Brian Kelly sucks. He's got a fake accent. Then we got the bye, of course. Always nice to get that little bye week before Georgia. Coming into Jacksonville. So right now I have us at 6-0. I don't know, for those of you following at home. UGA, I like our odds against anybody who starts Stetson Bennett at quarter.
7-0.
7-0. Wait, 7-0?
Yeah, we'll have 7 games before Georgia.
7-0 when we're walking into Georgia. Georgia starts Stetson Bennett, who stinks. Still can't believe that we didn't beat them last year. He's just a punk and can't throw the ball worth a shit. One of my favorite things of all time was when he was out of the game in 20 and the replacement starts warming up and hit a girl in the face. Or was it the coach? Somebody got hit in the face.
It was like
classic.
It was a water girl.
Then we're gonna go at Texas A&M. We're gonna go to Kyle Field. Always a tough place to play. Unfortunately for them, we're gonna kick their ass because they are an 8-4 team, and we're gonna be one of the 4 for them every year. South Carolina. Oh my God, I want to beat their ass so bad. I think that was the worst loss of last year with South Carolina. I wanted to kill myself the entire time. We got blown out 41-14. Seeing Emory Jones just flounder and drown up there at their stupid ass stadium, while the Hunter Biden of college football, Shane Beamer, was just celebrating and couldn't even believe that they beat us, which I think is going to be a stark reality for him this year. Then we're playing Vandy. Obviously, Vandy's the worst team ever. Then we go to FSU. FSU ruins our perfect record of never playing on a weekday like a fucking sorry-ass ACT team. Hopefully they have enough wins by then to renew Norvell, because they're certainly not making it past us. We're going to kick their ass for real this time with a real coach. So for those of you following along at home, I have us at 12-0. I would say the ceiling is 12-0. Probably will not win the SEC championship unless, of course, we see Texas A&M or LSU there again. I put our ceiling at 12-0, our floor at 10-2. What do we think, guys? Ceilings, floors, What do we got?
I mean, I know we say the floor is 10-2, and that's the mantra. I'll let you run with that. I will fully support you in that that floor thought. I think the ceiling is actually if we go 10-2, I will, you can't tell me shit going into next year, especially if Anthony Richardson were to come back for a senior season in the swamp. I think yeah, you couldn't tell me shit. Other than that, I think the floor. I mean, we have a tough schedule. I mean, we can joke all we want, but I think a realistic floor is. I mean, in worst case we could come out of September 1-3, and I don't think that's going to happen. But
So you're talking about a basement or gutter situation, which is
yeah, the gutter would be, I'm going to say the gutter is 5 or the basement is probably 5-7, floor probably 8-4, and then I think the ceiling is 10-2. You might be able to sell me on an 11-1.
Well, who would the
depending
floor
on
be?
how
I
we
guess
look.
it'd be Utah. Uh,
Utah, Kentucky, LSU, Georgia, A&M. I mean, those
yeah,
4 out of those 5 you could certainly
yeah, I guess so.
drop.
The furthest.
Even Tennessee. I mean, Utah, Kentucky, Tennessee, LSU, Georgia, A&M. I wouldn't be. I would be disappointed. I'm not saying I wouldn't be disappointed, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if that were to happen. If we were to go 6-6 and lose those, but we're not here for 6-6 football. This is Florida football. And I think last year we were so bad and we went 6-6. We were so and quit. We had a coach that quit. I think the Missouri and USC games were clearly quit losses. They were just because the team had given up. I think if you had a coach, if you knew your coach wasn't getting fired and your coach hadn't quit, I think we win those 2 games. I don't think anyone would argue with me on that. And then we go flip those 2 games. We're 8-4. Who else did we lose to that we shouldn't have lost to? The LSU game, that was a close one that we should not have lost.
I hope we never wear the orange again, the all orange.
That would have been 9-3. Then the Georgia game, that was a quit loss, but Georgia was better. They were better, clearly. Alabama, close. And the Kentucky game, like we could have been 10-2 last year had our coach not quit. Like I think that isn't outside the realm of
for sure
possibility. So that's how I can talk myself into a 10-2, because the teams like talent wise, we're better than everyone on this schedule except for Georgia and Texas A&M.
Yeah, and we got talent at QB too.
First of all, fuck you, Mac. Number one, because you guys are all riding me about, oh, we're gonna lose Tennessee, being a little bit nervous about having to travel into Neyland, and then you're over here saying that, oh, we could actually go 5-7. So I don't have us doing that.
Yeah, that's some bitch shit.
I don't have us that. I my prediction was 10-2. I'm just saying I could see where shit goes left.
I can't even see it going that far. I don't believe that happens.
Yeah,
there's no reality.
I agree with you. I don't think Billy Napier would allow that to occur. That's I agree. I think he is a better coach.
You're
deflecting.
You're flip flopping here. You sound like a politician,
yeah.
And I'm not going to stand for it.
Lawyer.
So
it's election day, baby.
The floor is 9-3.
That's right. It's a little low.
The ceiling is 15-0.
Hell yeah!
And there's no real reality here where the basement or gutter happens. No. We're not losing to Utah. We're not losing to Kentucky. We're not losing to fucking Brian Flamley. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be a terrible year to be a Tiger.
But we are gonna lose to Tennessee, huh?
It's a possibility. It's just a fear that I have because I feel like we got lucky some of the last few with just their sheer stupidity. And I'll probably save this. I don't want to go too far into it because if I'm on the show for the Tennessee week, I'll go into this. But it, Heupel or however you pronounce the guy's name, he's not. I just don't see him continuing to go down the line of like where we punt early in the fourth quarter, they're back at the 10-yard line and just their own 10, cramming the ball down our throats. They run 15 runs in a row and they're on our 45 or 40, and then they decide, okay, now we're going to throw the ball 4 consecutive downs, turnover on downs, or kick a field goal or have to punt or whatever it is, and we end up sealing the game. I don't see him being the kind of guy that perpetuates that stupidity. I could be wrong, but that's what scares me, is that stupidity may cease to exist at the Tennessee that we all know and love. And that's what I think. But there's no way we're going to lose to LSU. They sucked last year.
Yeah, I completely agree.
They are still going to suck this year. And Brian Kelly, at his best, can only do like 10-2 with all of his all-star players that he gets from Notre Dame. And he's taking weird butt-to-butt dancing videos with these guys. They don't want to play for him.
I don't like him at all.
There's no way.
I don't like him at all. And I think he's a poser. And he kind of lucked into that job. He was their third option, and I think it's a horrible fit for the program. So
I will say the basement would be 8-4. I could see us losing to Kentucky on some stupid fluke, losing to Tennessee, Georgia, and Texas A&M, and that's the basement. And I wouldn't be super surprised by it, I guess. But still, the floor, we're 9-3. We're winning the national championship.
Correct.
What are you talking about?
And for all of you wondering, if you average it all up, the floor is still 10-2. And with that, that's going to complete Workham Silly Week 0 preview. I can't wait to see you all back at the Swamp. We're going to be acting like absolute psychos in there, losing our voices and just being degenerates in every aspect of the word. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you watching. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Woo!